Claudia, thank you so much for being here with me today. I have always looked up to you and enjoyed so much your leadership, and so happy to have you.
So sweet. Thank you, Kristen. And it's funny, I've always looked up to you. So vice versa. Back at you.
The things that we're talking about today are really around some changes that you've taken in your career or in your life. And the first question I want to ask you is if you could describe a moment in your career when you felt particularly audacious, or when you stepped out of your comfort zone and took a leap of faith in some way.
Sure. And actually, I think you and I have talked about this in the past. It's just the one defining audacious moment for me. And that was taking a risk to move from the East Coast to the West Coast, from Philadelphia to San Francisco, and try a job, try a startup where I thought maybe I was just going to be helping out. I always laugh. My family is still saying, okay, it's been 9 years and you're still helping out. Are you coming back? So I didn't know it was going to be long term. Of course, I was at a point in my life and a point in my career that it also made sense. But I think it really took this moment for me to say, just try it. And I did, and it really worked out. I had not only about the job and the career, but also about lifestyle, getting to know California and all of the beauty in the West Coast. So it was an audacious moment for me, and I'm just so happy that I did it. Could have turned out differently, but if you don't try, it just you never, what's the term? If you don't shoot the basket, you can never get any points or something like that. I don't know. I don't play basketball, but similar.
No, definitely. So when you were making that decision, were you scared? Were you like, I guess you were just gonna give it a shot, but was that something that you felt like you were taking a big risk, or what was your thought process?
I was scared, but I think I was more excited. I love the idea of living in a big city. I moved into San Francisco, right away, and I loved the idea of exploring in the city and getting to know different people and different literally areas of the city. It was so exciting. Was I scared? Was it a big risk? Yes, 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 and yes.
Well, I know that you maybe, I don't know if you plan to get to the very top of the organization, but you have definitely changed the way things are done in many ways in your career and in the company. But can you describe a moment that you felt was kind of pivotal in the sense that you were changing the way things were being done?
Yeah, I think, I'm not sure if this was gradual or if it just seems a little more pronounced with COVID, but, I became very deliberate in my approach, rather than sitting back and making my lists and thinking about something. I was deliberate in executing. And that was, a pivotal moment for me, maybe a different approach for me. And it really helped my growth. I think it also helped people around me that were viewing me in a leadership role. But just making sure you're not thinking about something or planning without executing. And that's what I mean by, being a little bit more deliberate. And I think we all have examples of that in our personal life and in our professional life. But that definitely is a moment in my career. When I say moment, I do think it was somewhat gradual, but it was it was pronounced during COVID, and maybe because you're forced into it a little differently, and I'm organized a little bit differently. I feel more focused. I'm not running from meeting to meeting, and what do I have in my hand, and did I bring all that I need? I have everything in one spot, and that has helped as well. Not that you can't be focused in an office. You just have to. I think COVID taught me to be deliberate and focused, and shift a little bit in my approach.
Anyway, I had interviewed you. It was a while ago, years ago, I think. But one of the things that you talked about was how you prepare ahead of meetings. And so, obviously you're going to prepare ahead of meetings, but you were talking about preparing for a question to ask or follow-up items to that meeting. And it really allows you to, I think the interview is in the context of how to, improve your career or chances in your career. And I think you've been really good at communicating specific actionable items and being extremely focused and deliberate in things. But I'm sure we were just talking about this, the shift in COVID, you didn't have I know for me, everything is just whirlwind all the time, and you're constantly being dragged into the next thing. And we were both on flights all the time, but with everything slowing down a little bit, everything was moving fast, but you still had the time to say, okay, wait a second, how do I prepare for this, and how am I going to set aside and be extremely focused. So
yeah, I think it's another part, maybe another way to say deliberate is preparation. I mean, that's something that I've been doing for quite a while, but it is another answer to the shift is, just to prepare yourself for the topic, for, the look back, for what the goal. And that's also having some time to be able to do that, schedule your time out. I find time management is so interesting and so critical. And yet I remember taking a time management class one time. They said, don't always be preparing your to-do list and then you never really get to it. Don't organize too much, get the bigger things done first, all of those things. But preparation for meetings, preparation for goals, for strategic priorities, it's highly, highly critical in our career. And I think women tend to excel at that. I'm not saying that men aren't, organized, but there's this preparation piece that women just tend to go through that accelerates their careers. It's a strength.
Yeah, definitely. And I think, I think in that same interview, you had talked about scheduling time for some of the other things in life, like scheduling time for your laundry or whatever, and that allows you to not think about that. And I think for me, I was able to, make a big jump in my career when I was able to say, okay, there's a lot of things that need to be done, but I can draft all of that out, but here's what I need to focus on right now. And I can let all of these other things go, knowing that they exist, but yeah, that's great.
Yeah. So I have to do a little better at that, the letting go part, but it's so true. You do have to compartmentalize some things in life, some things. Now, look, some things you just can't. Children, and they are a constant focus. But I do think in work, if you can put aside things that are just noise for a while and focus on the things that you really need to execute on as best you can, it does matter.
Yeah. And I think a lot of times I realize that the things that get priority for me are sometimes they shouldn't be the priority. And if I take a step back and actually analyze, like, okay, what's going to drive the best results here? I need to put my focus on this. And I think if we don't take that preparation, we're not able to, I'll tend to want to make sure that our CEO is super happy, or our, someone's feelings are being accommodated. And it's not about that. What we need is results in this area. And so I think if you don't take the moment of stepping back, you're not able to actually lean into the priorities or understand what those priorities are.
Yeah. That's what you just said is really important, Kristen, in the sense that if you're finding yourself that you're being pulled into things that are draining you really, or maybe not allowing you to focus on the right things, doesn't mean it's not important. It just, because it could be, but you may have to step back and understand the why behind that. And we all have that, is there a person that's draining us? Is there a situation draining us? Am I finding myself spending too much time to get to a solution when maybe it's a little more muddy than you'd like it to be? It's you just have to parse out what's the right cadence there.
Yeah, I think leading into my next question, you have challenged the status quo in many ways just by being a female CEO and by, I think in many areas of your life, but is there a particular way when you feel like you have challenged the status quo in our industry or in mortgage insurance?
Yeah, I have a very close friend of mine that at one time told me, he thought when he first met me that I was kind of, and I can't remember the adjective he used. I want to say it's something like bossy or, um, it was something that sounded like a negative. And then I remember thinking to myself, and I've really played into this. I hopefully effectively is speaking up, being at the forefront of a situation, not being scared to be heard, not being scared to be wrong, trusting people around you to feel comfortable in leading a conversation, and speaking out is really important. And I think that could be the status quo for many people. For me, I saw around me that was something was breaking the status quo, and it really helped. It helped my career. It helped, I think, the company. It helps the people around you. You don't have to be um, a jerk about things. You just have to be thinking strategically, but also don't hold back if it's something you think is really going to move the company forward. And that's, I think sometimes we all tend to sit back and wait. Do we have the right answer? Should I say something? Is it the right time? And you have to be cognizant of that. But the shift for me, or the status quo, was usually for me, it was I'll just wait and I won't say anything until I'm sure or whatever. And it's okay to skirt the line a little bit, if it's appropriate, and if it really does uh, take a topic to a next level, or a initiative to the next level, or just break through in a conversation.
Yeah, and you're an amazing communicator, especially around in a mortgage insurance. I'm always surprised whenever I hear you talk about it, because I think like, oh, okay, this is all going to go over my head. And then I hear you speak and you explain things in a way that's really, it's speaking to the point, but it's also bringing others into the conversation. And I don't know if that was something intentional or if it's just you being you, and you're able to communicate across a lot of, I think, potential boundaries. But are you spending time thinking about the way that you're communicating these things, or is that something that was a intentional shift for you?
Kristen, I have a background right out of college where I was a trainer for a while. I actually was a teller trainer, went into corporate training, and I think training helps with communication, because you're telling a story, you're making sure everybody has a baseline and then is building from there. That just comes natural to me, and that's the way my mind works. Like, wait, did I miss something? What are we talking about? Let's find out where we were, where we're at, where we're heading. I think sometimes when we're in meetings and somebody just starts talking and you're not connecting, you need to say, look, I may have missed something. I really apologize, but can we step back a minute? Am I clear on our goal? Am I clear on, the last conversation? I thought the jumping off point was this. I think that's important. And then if someone else is telling that story. So probably my training background helped, but it's natural, but it is deliberate.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So my last question for you is around how you've challenged the status quo within yourself. Like, can you describe a time when you have shifted internally, or challenged something that you're thinking and feeling internally?
Yeah, the challenge quo within myself was about learning areas that were just not natural for me. I didn't come up in that world, whatever that world is around me. And it's really researching, learning. I had to pull some college books out again. I had to take some courses, but it's research, understanding, it's pulling back to your own organization. That was a big shift. Normally you go into a meeting and you just go, oh, that person knows it. Mm-hmm. And I no longer said that person knows it. I wanted to know it. Now, I'm not going to be the subject matter expert, but I want to know it. I want to know it well enough that I can ask questions, that I can pull things together and make a difference. And that's been quite a while, but it really is, it is for me, breaking the status quo of trusting someone just to do it all. And that doesn't mean that they aren't still doing it. It just means that you have more knowledge to be able to come to the conversation about. And that's important. And I think it's been a big shift for me.
So the shift was around challenging yourself to like gather more information and become more of an expert in certain areas that you didn't
That's right.
previously have experience. Okay.
That's right. That's
Yeah.
exactly right.
Yeah.
And that takes a lot of work. That takes a lot of, time. I would sometimes spend a weekend just saying, I'm going to spend a couple hours understanding this, understanding how this, looking at this spreadsheet, pulling it back to, to something else. And it's not rocket science, but takes time because it's not natural and constant for you. Same with speeches, where I needed to practice. I would normally just pretty much just go with it. And you get to a point in your career that just going with it isn't enough. You have to practice, stand in front of the mirror, make sure it's natural. Not like this. This is you and I talking. This is us. But when you're standing in front of a crowd and you're at an investor meeting or at some type of forum where you are given a speech, you can't just read it off or wing it. So that's another status quo that I felt I had to break in order to
definitely
be prolific.
I think a lot of people, especially women, it seems like we feel like, okay, I'm not an expert in this area, and so there's like an internal ceiling there, and instead of, okay, but I can learn that and I can break through that, and I think that that's something that I'm constantly trying to challenge myself with, of like, okay, no, I'm not there right now, but I could be, and trying to constantly, push myself towards, this is what I would like to become. And so I can study it and practice it,
Yeah. And, Kristen, people around us, if you said to the subject matter expert, you've made a comment in a meeting a couple times about X, and I understand it, but don't really fully grasp where it's coming from, where it's going. Can you spend, 15 minutes with me just unraveling that subject? People are very happy, as long as it's not confidential, et cetera. People are very happy to be able to help. It's what makes the world go round.
Yeah, definitely. Well, Claudia, thank you so much for spending some time with me today and for sharing your thoughts. I love hearing your stories and love, again, following your leadership. So thank you so much.